Hi, this is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews, and I'm here to do a brand new 2025 movie review. And the movie is called Gator Lake.
People are dying on my lake.
9 kills in the last week.
11.
This movie is starring Derek Russo, Jeff Benninghofer, Sarah Voigt, Essex O'Brien, Michael Houston King, Danny Nucci, and Simon Lee. Directed by Michael Houston King, the basic overview is lurking in Florida's deadliest lake, a gigantic alligator embarks on a bloodthirsty rampage to reclaim its territory. With the body count rising, Wrangler and ex-con Bubba Coggins gets the opportunity to have his record expunged if he can find, catch, and kill the gator. So over the last 30 days, in light of the 50th anniversary of Jaws, I ended up reviewing 3 shark creature feature films. And then I noticed that just a week ago, Gator Lake was released onto VOD streaming, and I thought, okay, not a shark, but very similar. We've got a creature in the water who likes to behave somewhat like Jaws, and this could be a good ride. So let's review it. So let's get into what I liked about Gator Lake. The thing that honestly stands out to me the most was the actual music. There was a very hard rock, classic hard rock sounding, but maybe a little bit more of a modern classic rock, like late 80s, middle 90s hard rock music playing. And this movie had a lot of that music playing to our main protagonist, Bubba Coggins, walking around with weapons in a tank top, looking brutal and tough as hell, hunting down this alligator. So in a way, it was kind of like a hard rock music video starring a gator killer. And overall, I do like our main protagonist, Danny Russo, playing Bubba Coggins. He is this silent but big type, a really big brawny type guy, but very low speaking, like a very low voice and very monotone. He's very just like that tough silent type guy, and he plays into that type of role the whole time.
Mama, another gator got in the house.
Another gator? Give me that shovel. Come here.
Get him, Mama. Get that gator.
This was listed as a horror comedy. I would say there were some funny parts, and the whole story overall is kind of funny, but I don't think it really leaned into the comedy, nor much the horror either. I would say this is kind of light on horror because the gator scenes are quick and lots of cutting back and forth. You do see the gator, and you never see the whole gator. You see, kind of like if you had watched Jaws and only ever saw the fin and maybe the nose and the tail. That's kind of how you see this gator. A lot of the nose, a lot of the up above the water, just like the top of the head and stuff like that. And even though there was a fairly good amount of kills in this, they were pretty quick. The lead into the kill and the actual kill usually was quite quick, which led a lot of time left over for the rest of the movie. So other than this whole type of music video thing going on with the hard rock music and our main character kind of marching around this lake looking for the gator, in between that you have a lot of drama. So there's a lot of characters in this. I thought there'd be a lot less characters. So I feel like this movie wanted to be Jaws and kind of blending it with what we've seen with these modern shark movies. So I basically had just said how each of the movies I just watched featuring a shark also featured criminals. Well, it's the same here. Now the criminals here, I don't know if I would call them exact criminals. I guess the one guy is definitely a criminal. So like, let me just break down the characters so I can explain this. The biggest criminal, or I guess the other antagonist other than the alligator, is the owner of Gator World, which is this like person who runs some sort of like gator place on the lake where this gator has been taking action and killing people. And he has apparently been feeding people to the gators to bring publicity to the lake so that his business, which is run on the lake, would be more successful. So in a way, this is kind of the opposite of Jaws, because the shark was taking away business from Amity and they wanted the shark gone. This guy wanted the gator there so it would draw people to his business. And then there was a mayor. So the name of the town is Jessup, and we have the mayor, and he's no Murray Hamilton, but he definitely is in that same age bracket, kind of the same way that he behaves and talks. He definitely wants to get rid of the gator because it's killing people in the lake. So like this guy who's kind of in the middle, more of a basic helper to Bubba Coggins. He is like a wildlife manager of the lake, and he is the one who is reporting the lake deaths and reporting the gator deaths, and he's the one that gets Bubba Coggins in with the mayor so that he can cut this deal to break his parole, break his prison sentence, get himself released from the trouble he has had, because he's an ex-con, and he's wants to get custody of his grandson so that his daughter can go off and do some career choice, and this all needs to happen. So everything is kind of like on the line for Bubba Coggins. Like, I've got to kill this gator so I can break my past and get a happy future. So Bubba does have a daughter, and she's not really in the movie that much, and she talks about her son, his grandson, like, you know, you want to get the custody, but that part kind of reminded me how in Borderline I said there wasn't much of a connection between the main star and the child in the movie, and it kind of made it feel anticlimactic because you don't even see this little kid till the way end, and there was never really a connection between grandpa and grandson, at least on screen. Also, Bubba Coggins has a love interest. His, I guess, maybe potential girlfriend. It's not really established till the way end of the movie that these two are going to be a couple, but a girl presents herself as someone who shows an interest in Bubba Coggins, and she's played by Sarah Voigt, and she's okay. I mean, she kind of comes in, talks a little smack, basically seems disappointed until he pulls everything off. This will lead me into where I'm mixed or negative on this movie, and it's really the characters are very generic. It's generic versions of characters we've seen before. Mayor Vaughn, generic Mayor Vaughn. Bubba Coggins, he's fairly generic for like this stereotypical action hero guy. You know, built tough, looks strong, looks grizzly and handsome, but like there's really no real substance to him as a character. He's very flat. And our villains are the same way. They're just kind of generic, basic villains. They've, you know, they mutter around, they say crusty things, but there's really no substance to these guys. And a lot of it is like just these discussions that end up kind of flat. So like Bubba Coggins ends up marching around, getting in everyone's face that seems to be bad or in the way of him succeeding at killing this gator. He's kind of acting like a killer, but also acting like a detective, trying to figure out, well, why is this gator here? And that'll lead me into another, this is definitely a negative. So like the movie opens with, in the 1960s, theme parks, and Orlando was being developed, and all the gator population moved to this lake, and basically says like, this one lake north of Orlando in Jessup is got tons of gators in it because of this. And then it flashes to another script that says, and in 2003, the lake was terrorized for like 13 days. And I thought, oh wow, this is going to be like hundreds of gators maybe just piling in on this lake and attacking people. That's where I thought this movie was going. But there's only one gator. And this one gator is brutal when he gets people, but the kills are not so hot. A lot of cutting, a lot of just a little bit of the gator, a lot of people flailing around in the water, blood coming up, and then the deaths are all relatively short. I would say there wasn't much tension to most deaths, meaning there wasn't a lot of build up to the death scenes. It seemed like the scene would start, person would be dead within 2 to 5 minutes, and boom, death's over, next scene. Which also leads me to believe that most of these deaths weren't super gory. I mean, there was some blood. There was definitely some gory parts. There was one part where they show a severed hand or severed arm. Someone had their arm bit off. So at the end of the day, this one really does just kind of remind me of like a generic Jaws, a generic Lake Placid, kind of blending with the 3 movies that I just watched, Into the Deep, Dangerous Animals, and Fear Below. All of those, this movie had a very similar feel with the sharks and criminals, gators and criminals. The other thing that reminded me of Dangerous Animals, our main star, Derek Russo, played is Bubba Coggins. He really did remind me a lot of our main antagonist in Dangerous Animals, Tucker. They had a very similar body build. They're similar in age, similar in character somewhat. I felt like Tucker was definitely more weird and quirky in scenes. You know, Bubba Coggins, he's extremely brute. 24/7, always serious, never comical, drinks a lot. You know, there's this one scene I just thought was weird. Like his friend comes to visit him and he's calling on him for something and he's like, oh, have a drink. And the guy's like, no, I'll have a Diet Pepsi. And he's like, oh, you're gonna make me drink alone? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a Diet Pepsi. And then he's like drinking a couple shots and drinking his beer, and it's like continues to pressure him to drink. And I'm like, are we giving a peer pressure lesson here? I'm like, what's going on with this scene? I mean, I'm proud of the other guy. He's like never drank. You know, he said, I'm not drinking, and he never drank. So like that side character, which was only in 1 or 2 scenes, basically said, oh, I'm not drinking. I'm your buddy, but I'm not drinking. Bubba Coggins definitely marches around, and he definitely is constantly getting into everyone's face, like nose to nose. He gets nose to nose with the mayor, nose to nose with the Gator owner. He's constantly just being that bulky alpha male. Interesting to watch. I mean, he's extremely built. He's walking around kind of like a Terminator meets Rambo. He's always like in a tank top. His big muscles always bulging out. He's always going up and down this lake on this speedboat with the gun, just waiting to find the gator. And you know, those scenes were amusing to watch just because you're kind of waiting for something to happen, but it does become disappointing because it's very anticlimactic with the gators. So I'm just gonna give this as a spoiler because it really is how the movie ends. So he's going back and forth. It just seemed like there was a lot of on land scenes, a lot of dialogue scenes, which was building our main character up to be the protagonist, but it was always very basic of what was going on. It was what was being said, and very predictable. And I started noticing that I was checking my watch because I'm like, when are there going to be more gators going on, especially gators with Bubba Coggins? It seems like the gators and Coggins are not together a lot. And I thought, all right, maybe it's going to be this grand ending because as far as the spoilers, he ends up kidnapping the owner of the Gator World and he brings them on the boat. And I kind of saw that coming. Brings him on the boat and uses him as bait to lure the gator to kill him. And I can tell you that this was anticlimactic because the entire scene where he's on the boat with his kidnapped guy from Gator World is about 3 minutes, and he basically one shot, he pours like chum on him or like gook on him, like bloody gook on him to get this gator. Gator comes like that. He whips out the gun and smile, you son of a boom. It's done. It was that fast. Like, what the heck? You know, that guy, the main villain never dies. He ends up surviving. And I guess he kind of had to, because it would have been seen as him killing him if he would have fed him to the gator, which I kind of wanted that to happen, because this guy was kind of villainous. He was the most villainous criminal in the movie. And then Bubba Coggins gets his happy ending. He gets the girl, he gets the grandkid, he gets his daughter, he gets his life back. He ends up inheriting Gator World. So it was a cute little ending. So let's get down to business on this one. Overall, it's a basic burger. I would say the characters are generic, the movie is fairly predictable. It's a plot line we've seen before with a bunch of other movies kind of blended together. The thing that stands out the most to me is honestly the music. The music and our main character. It definitely suffers with Gator action, it suffers with the kills, it suffers with the build-up. And I would say it kind of suffers with the comedy too. It listed itself as a comedy and I didn't really find it that funny. So here's what I will say about whether or not to watch Gator Lake. If you love shark movies, if you love gator movies, you know, if you loved Crawl, if you loved Alligator, if you loved Lake Placid, you might find this one interesting enough. If you love Jaws, Deep Blue Sea, The Meg, every generic shark movie that comes along, if you really find yourself interested in them type of movies, you'll find this one good. Or I should say good enough for a one-time watch. Well, that's all. This is it. Johnny's Good Burger Reviews, Gator Lake. It's streaming, VOD. Thanks for watching. And remember, stay scared of those vicious gators.